And I can edit
Yeah,
it.
that's good. Okay, good. And then she'll probably show up in a second and I'll have to tell her to stay out for a minute.
It's recording, but I'll edit it. I'll edit it.
You'll edit it?
I'll
Okay,
edit
good
it out,
deal.
so whenever you wanna start, you can start.
Okay, good morning.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Leona. I'll be your nurse today. You doing okay?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So today we're doing a physical assessment. That means a full assessment from head to toe, and we'll go over any concerns you might have, okay?
Okay.
And so before we get started, I'm just gonna wash my hands
Okay.
and give us some privacy, okay?
All right.
All right, so one of the first things I wanna do is just kind of assess where you are, like, whether or not you're oriented and functioning. Typically this is called the Glasgow scale. And I'm just really checking for consciousness. So I'm gonna ask some questions. The patient typically won't know that I'm assessing all this, but I normally would be assessing this throughout the entire assessment from head to toe.
Okay.
And I'm also looking at her skin at the entire assessment, and then I'll probe some questions, okay?
Okay.
So, can you verify your name and date of birth, please?
Yes, Madison Lowry, 7/2/2000.
7/2/2000, Madison Lowry. Okay, very good. And Madison, do you know why you're here?
For a physical assessment.
Okay. And do you know what day it is?
It is March 3rd,
Okay. And the year is
2023.
very good. And do you know who's president?
Biden.
Okay, great. So right now she understands, she's oriented, she's making eye contact with me, she's groomed appropriately, she's dressed for the weather, and she's also communicating with me, she's not confused. The Glasgow scale, we would be normally looking at her eyes. So like I said, she is making eye contact with me. She's also verbally responding to me, and her motor skills, she's also responding to the commands that I make. And you'll see further on in the assessment that she's also responding to some mobility testing that we'll do later. Okay. So right now as we get started, I'm going to start with your head. And so I'm just gonna be looking at her hair, I'm looking at her scalp, and I'm also checking for bugs and things like that underneath her hair. Maddie, are you having any concerns with your scalp or your hair, anything like that?
No.
No itchiness, no anything like that? What about, have you had any head trauma in the past?
I have not.
Okay, good. You don't have any headaches or anything that you're dealing with? All right, so I'm also going to be looking at her eyes. And unfortunately, I'm not as prepared, but normally I would be. I don't have my pen light with me, and I'll try to solve that problem very quickly. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna get started on your eyes, and I want you to kind of look behind me at sometimes, and then I'm gonna ask you to focus a little bit different. So the first thing I'm checking for with her eyes is perla. I'm looking at her pupil size, and right now I'm gonna try to measure with my pen light where her eyes are starting with. And to me, she looks like she's probably, her pupil size is at a 5 in the beginning. And once I shine the light, I'm going to be paying attention to the constriction and dilation of that. With Perla, I'm looking for her pupil size. I'm looking for the roundness in her pupils. I'm looking for how they react. I'm looking how they react to light. And also a test that we look for is accommodation. Okay, so when I shine this light to you, just on the side, I'm just looking for something, and you just, so both eyes concentrally and direct, both pupils did constrict, which is what they're supposed to do. But I will check the other side. And if I didn't mention it before, her pupil size was a 5, and it did respond. Okay, so now I'm gonna be checking for accommodation. Sorry if I blinded you, but now I'm gonna be checking for accommodation. And so this pen is gonna be right here in front of you, but I want you to look away from me first. And so, and she's gonna focus right there. And when I tell you to, I want you to just focus on the pen, okay?
Okay.
So she's looking away right now. Her pupil size is more dilated. And now I'm gonna ask you to look to the pen, and then immediately constricted, and that was bilaterally. So that's a good deal. All right. Are you having any trouble with your ears? You have any ringing?
Do not.
Okay. If I do this, do you hear?
Yes.
Okay, so very good. And I'll do that on both sides. I'm checking to see, can she hear properly? And you said there is no drainage, you're not having any trouble with that. Her ears, just like it was if I looked at her coming in, she has symmetry, there's no drooping in her face, her ears are both the good size for the way her face is structured, so there's nothing going on there. Now I'm gonna check for your nose. I'm checking for the way it looks on the inside in her mouth. And I'm also gonna ask you to do some stuff for me to see if you're breathing okay. So we'll start with you first. I want you to close the right side of your nose. Just, close it and breathe in and do the other side. Okay, good. And that you don't have any trouble doing that? All right. So now I'm gonna just ask you to hold your neck, hold back. I'm just gonna look inside. And you haven't had any drainage or anything like that. It's pollen season. Are you struggling a little bit? But you look good. Her mucosa was shiny and pink and it looked fine, okay? Check your mouth now. Are you going to the dentist regularly, like every 2 times a year? Is that your goal? Okay, good. And lift up? Good. So her mucosa looks very good. There's no sores. Her mucosa was pink and it looked shiny, so it looked healthy to me, okay? And she says she is going to the dentist on a regular basis. While I have you here, Maddie, I want you to look up. I'm gonna check her vein. This is, I'm checking for JVD, jugular distension. I'm just looking to see that her vein is not bulging out, and she looks good on both sides. Everything I do, I will do on both sides, okay? And so now, are you having any trouble swallowing? Okay. I'm also looking at her trachea, and it looks even. It doesn't look like one is on one side. I'm also checking again on her nose to make sure when I looked inside there was no forgot what it was called, but I'm just making sure she's it's no deviation from it. Okay, all right, good deal. So other than that, I've for the most part finished her head assessment, and I'm gonna move down to some other parts of her body as we go lower. So I've checked eyes, ears, and head, okay? And so now, Maddie, I'm going to check for, we'll start off with some respirations just to see how you sound in your lungs. Are you having any trouble breathing?
No.
Okay. So in this, I would normally take her respiration rate. I would monitor if she has a good breathing pattern. I would monitor this for 30 seconds on my watch to see how her breathing pattern is. And I'm also checking her lung sound. So not Megan, but Maddie, take a deep breath. Okay, good. This is her right upper lung, left upper lung. Good. Take a deep breath. Right upper lung, left upper lung. This again is her left upper lung. And I might be in the right place because typically I normally would not have any clothes on here. So I can be across her breast, but at some point I may ask her to lift that. This is her right upper lung. Over here I'm in her left lower lung, but typically I would be on the lateral side of this because the left lung is pretty large. So I'm gonna ask you to lift your arm up. I would be right here on the left lateral lobe here. She has a right middle lobe here. Right, is it here? Right here? Okay, and then I'm gonna go right here to the right lateral lobe. Her breath sounds good. There's no adventitious sounds to it. She's breathing a very normal, smooth rhythm, okay? I'm also gonna check the back. And so we got the right, breathe in, right upper lobe, the left upper lobe, the left lower lobe, and the right lower lobe, okay? So you have good breaths. Her breath sounds are good, and she's at a normal rate. Okay. All right, we're gonna go straight into the heart from here. I think I asked you all the questions. Maybe I missed something. Maddie, do you have any cough or anything like that? Are you having any trouble with sputum? I am, but are you having any trouble with them?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you don't have any I'm gonna talk to you about some education resources later on in our assessment, so that you can understand how we go about getting some of the congestion in your sounds, making sure that we get that cleared out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll go ahead and go with the heart rate right now.
Okay.
All right. And so now I'm at the her clavicle bone. I'm in the right on the right side of her sternum. I'm gonna be listening to her aortic valve. And then I'm gonna move over to the pulmonary valve on the left side, Irv's point. I'm gonna go down to the tricuspid valve, right, more like it's on the left side of the sternum, but it's below her breast. And then right in the fifth intercostal space would be her mitral valve. Okay, if by chance that this, I would normally listen to each of these, but if by chance this sounded abnormal, I would turn this to the bell side of my stethoscope and listen to her apical pulse or the mitral valve for at least a minute. All right, are you having any rapid breathing or chest pains or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I also would listen for murmurs on her apical pulse if she was, that's the reason I would turn that bell sound, okay? All right, and so one of the things I would check for is several pulse areas. I'm gonna point them out right now, and I typically would check these for 30 seconds, okay? So here she has a radial pulse here, okay? And here she has a carotid pulse on both sides. Right underneath here, she has a axillary pulse. Right in here, she has a brachial pulse. It's the same pulse we would use if I was taking her blood pressure. It's right in here. She also has right up here on her thigh, pretty high up, is a femoral pulse. Below, and I would check these on both sides, but she also has a pulse behind her leg, which is the popliteal pulse on both sides of her knee, sorry. And then as I go down, she has a dorsalis pedis pulse on the top of her foot, and she has a posterior tibia pulse on this side. I would also check both sides of her for these pulses to see if there's any differences on each side, and to be sure that there's peripheral blood flow throughout her body, and there's no. The whole time I'm assessing her, I would also be checking for her temperature to make sure she kind of feels just as warm as I do, or just normal temperature. There's no cold or hot or moisture. And I would check that for her arms and her legs, okay? I want you to hold your hands out. I'm also gonna be checking for capillary refill on both hands. As I press in, I'm just looking for her color to return. And as long as it's under 2 seconds, she's in good. Her capillary refill is good. I would also be checking that on her toes as well. Now she has on polish, so I'm not sure how we get around that, but I would be checking that for her toes as well, okay? Maddie, there's one more thing I forgot to do is up at the top, and it's called skin turgor. And I would basically just pinch this skin right here. And what I'm looking for is that it just bounces back very quickly, and that it's not tenting up to show any kind of dehydration. Okay? So, I know I can't look, but I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't think I have. I think I've asked my questions. So now we're gonna focus on your muscular skeletal, see how you're moving with me. So I want you, we're gonna check 2 upper extremities and 2 lower extremities, okay? So I will be checking this on both sides. What I'm gonna have you do, Maddie, is just hold your hands. This is called supination. Okay, sorry. And then I want you to turn your hand, and we call that pronation. Do that again. And what I'm checking for in her wrist and also in her elbow, I'm checking for crevices, like cracking. Do you have any pain with your upper extremities, Maddie? Okay, so we've checked for that. Now I'm gonna ask you to turn again, and now I'm checking for her strength. So turn again, just like we did before, good. Sorry. And then I have to hold it kind of tight to see how strong you are. Now go back the other way. Good. So she's showing good strength there. Her strength level is normal range there. I'm going to have you do another test. I'm going to have you do a test like flex your arm. So right now we're in the flex arm position. I want you to extend it, which is just normal. Just extend it out. Okay. And I'm also holding her. This is in her elbow. She's doing good there. And I would again check this on both sides. Okay. And so now I'm going to do her strength test here as well. So push back for me as you right flex, and now push down as you extend. Good. Do the same thing. Yep. And then come back. Good. All right. So I'm going to move down, and I'm going to check her knees. And all we're going to do is just sit here while you're comfortable. And I want you to kind of, right now her position is in the extend position, and I want you to flex it by pushing your leg out. Okay, feel a little bit of crepitness there, and then come back. Good. Do it again. Good. Now we're gonna, I want you to, I'm checking for her strength to see if she's able to move my hand. Good. She can move it with resistance. Good. 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 Okay, so, I'm gonna check her feet because I do need to check for 2 extremities. So right now she's in the extend position. It's just flat on the floor. Maddie, I just want you to hold your feet up. Yeah, so this will be hyperextension. And then I want you to just point your toes down to the floor. Okay, and I want you to do that again. All right, and do it one more time. Good. So she has strength there too as well. Her strength is in normal range. She's able to flex, extend, and hyperextend her feet. And I would check that on both sides. I'm also going to be checking for the edema here. When I check the capillary refill, I should be starting at the distal point, and I'm just going to move up. Do you have any swelling?
No, ma'am.
So it's when I press in, she is turning, I can see that her skin is turning colors, but it comes right back. So she doesn't have any swelling that she's aware of, and I don't feel any either. I would also check that in her legs as well. You don't have to pull it up. I can see it here. Good. My instructor told me if I do see my fingerprints, it is called trace edema. So she may be holding some water in there, but she looks good. Okay. All right. So from here, Maddie, I'm going to have you do what we call a gait and balance. I just want you to stand up, and I want you to just walk to the board like normal. You can put your feet right in front of each other, right there. Good. Don't fall. All right, so she looks good. Her gait looks good. She's not wobbling or swaying or, you know, I feel like she's about to fall. And I'm also going to do the run book test by closing your eyes. Then when I let go, I just want to see if she's swaying. Go ahead. And she stood very solidly, so she's good on the run book test as well. Now I'm going to move down to the gastrointestinal. The first thing I would do is to look at her, inspect her quadrant in her stomach. Can you lean back just a little bit? She has 4 quadrants here. No, please don't fall. She has 4 quadrants here. I would start on the right side, and I'll demonstrate that in a second, but I would also be looking for symmetry on both sides, making sure there's no distension, making sure there's no lesion, any kind of strange hair discoloration, you know, patches of hair. I would be probably looking throughout her whole body for that. Are you having any trouble with your bowels? How often are you using the bathroom? When is the last time you went?
Yesterday.
Good. And so is this normal for you to go every day?
Yes.
Okay. And I would start off with her right quadrant here, right lower quadrant, just sort of moving in the direction of the way her bowels would move. And the right upper quadrant here. Typically, I'm just listening for sound no more than 30 seconds or so. But if I find that there are no sounds in any of these quadrants, I will have to stay there and listen for a good 5 minutes. And I don't know if I said this, but it's the left upper quadrant and the left lower quadrant, okay? There is a spot here that I would turn on the bell sound to look for more distinct sounds. And I'm listening for any type of brute or abnormal sounds here. If I'm not mistaken, you can also find abdominal and aneurysms here, and I would be turning that on the brute sound to listen for those sounds. Okay. So she already asked her, told me how oftentimes she goes and whether or not she's having bowel movements regularly, and she is. Is there any pain with the bowel movements? How often are you using the bathroom? Are you having to go to the bathroom at night often?
Once a day.
Okay, once a day for your urine?
Oh, urine.
Yes.
I
Well,
probably
once a day for the bowels, I got that.
Probably go about 10 times a day.
Oh, that's pretty good. So she's getting plenty of fluid, and so we're good there. So if she's going that regularly, that's good. And there's no pain with your urinary.
No.
Okay. Any ringing in your ears?
No.
Okay. Well, Maddie, believe it or not, I think I've gotten through everything.
Okay. All right.
And if there's something I missed, I'm sure we'll ask the doctor. And thank you so much. All right?
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye. Oh, Maddie, sorry. Have a seat. I did forget something. You told me you didn't have any coughs, but I did want to talk with you about making sure we clear your chest. So if you find that you're developing any kind of cough or congestion in your chest, I do want you to do what we call cough deep breath. You just take a deep breath.
Okay.
Like that, and you just, yeah, just like that. And you want to do that every 2 hours to clear out any congestion that may be settling that could cause pneumonia or things
Okay.
like that. And also, we have a incentive spirometer that we would use. It would look something like this, and you can practice with it, but all you would do is you basically would take a deep breath, and then you would blow in it, and you kind of just watch doing that every 10 times per, like if you're watching TV,
Okay.
commercial or something like that. That way you don't feel so burdened by it, but you would do that as well.
All
Do
right.
you have any other questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, bye.